Welcome, Temple Tactic viewers. We are here today with Carmelo Alvarez, a historian in regards to hip-hop history. He also owned RadioTron at one point during the early mid-'80s. This gentleman knows a lot of hip-hop history when it comes to the West Coast hip-hop history. Today we're going to speak to Carmelo Alvarez about his RadioTron club that was located in MacArthur Park. So welcome to Temple Tactics Season 2, Episode 13 with Carmelo Alvarez. Carmelo, thank you for coming to Temple Tactics today to speak to us about your club, RadioTron.
Well, thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. How you feeling today, man?
I'm feeling good.
Yeah?
You know, the club was actually a youth center, and it wasn't in MacArthur Park. It was across the street from MacArthur Park.
Excuse me. Thank you. So let's just go ahead and get into that. You grew up in the MacArthur Park area. RadioTron was located in the MacArthur Park area. Have you always been a Los Angeles MacArthur Park resident?
Well, I moved here with my mother and 3 sisters. My mother was actually pregnant with my 4th sister, and in the 1950s, my father was a raitero. You know what that is?
I do, but if you explain for them.
Okay, a raitero is a person that gives rides, rides to, at the time it was farm workers. He gave rides to farm workers that crossed the border in Juarez, Mexico. They were in the Bracero movement. So the Greyhound didn't pick them up. They were like races, So there were a lot of Mexicans along the highway, and they developed a cottage industry called raiteros, which, in other words, giving rides, giving rides to farm workers to Bakersfield and Fresno and Delano. So he bought a brand new station wagon, and he began doing that. But he took a little bit too long to come back home to my mom. So one day my mom says, "Pack your bags, kids. We're moving to LA," So we we came in the train, and we arrived at Union Station in 1959. And my father got a job at Clifton's cafeteria, and we moved around MacArthur Park, and we used to go there on Sundays after church, and it was nice back then. So I've seen a lot of the changes over the years. And you asked me about RadioTron?
Yes. How did that RadioTron come about? I mean, you were a community activist, you were as well as a dancer, and you brought these traits together to create RadioTron. How did that come about?
Well, when we arrived here to Los Angeles, my father said, the girls play inside and the boys outside. But I was the only boy, so I didn't have anybody to play with. But there was a little tree on the side of the house, and so I built a tree house. And my father taught me how to hammer a nail, And when I built a tree house, all the kids from the neighborhood started playing with me. So that tree house was a place where I felt free. I felt free to use my imagination, to become anything I wanted. And my favorite character was Robin Hood. Steal from the rich and give to the poor.
Yes, sir.
So I used to love Robin Hood, So I would play Robin Hood up in the tree. And that's how I started building the community spaces for the kids.
Oh, okay. Before there was RadioTron, there was a club radio where your future RadioTron would be. That place was open from 11 p.m. to 5 o'clock in the morning, and this was going to be your future community center. Tell us about the story when you first walked up to Club Radio for the first time.
Well, I didn't know that.
It's an interesting story.
Yeah, I didn't know that there was a club there, first of all, because in 1983, I was actually living in New York. I was running a coffee house showcase, And my brother-in-law, Trinidad Silva, who was an actor in Hill Street Blues, he played the gang member Jesus, and also he was in the movie Colors.
Frog.
Yeah, he played Froggy. And so he called me up, him and my sister called me up, and they said, we're opening a performing arts academy for community kids, and asked me to be the director. So I had spent 3 years in New York, and I kind of missed LA, and plus the Olympics were going to be coming to LA, so I said, this would be a good time to come back home. So I moved into the office, and then one day the owner, he said, hey, I have a perfect building for you, for your academy. I have a little building in the back and it has a stage. But one thing, there's a club there that meets on Fridays. I think it's called Radio Club. So go tell them that they have to move. So I waited till Friday came, and I went there. And as I was walking up, somebody threw a bottle at me, and they yelled out, "Fucking Mexican!" And then the next minute, I heard people saying, "Madonna's here, Madonna!" And I go, "Wow, somebody doesn't want me here, but I'm going in, because Madonna's here, I'm going in, So I went inside, and that's the first time I heard Ice-T. Ice-T was rapping on stage. The Glove was DJing. There were a few breakers and poppers, and a lot of mixed crowd. It was older people, white people, a lot of hipster types, and a few of the few hip hop kids, and it was just like hip hop was just beginning to grow in LA. Now, I had seen breakdancing in New York when I was there in the 80s. I saw kids dancing on cardboard on Fifth Avenue, for money. So I already knew what it was, but I had never heard like rapping live, So when I saw Ice-T rapping, it reminded me of like the bebop movement, the beatnik movement, where they would do poetry to jazz, and the bongos, they were like Cool Cat Daddy-O, But now it was like, "What's up, dog?" And instead of saying cool, they would say fresh, And then so it went from the bebop, like underground jazz in Harlem, then beatnik, and then the hippie, because the hippie incorporated like psychedelic art and music and crazy dance, and then hip hop. So it went from bebop to beatnik to hippie to hip hop, and I saw it in 1 second just by seeing Ice-T rapping. That all came to me, and I go, "This is the new thing. This is the new thing." And I went back to the owner. I go, "No, I think it's good. I think we should keep them." And the owner said, "Okay, well, you go and charge them rent, and you pay me that." And I went back to the promoter, the owner promoter of Radio Club was a Russian guy. So I went back to the Russian guy. I go, "Hey, I have good news. The owner said you could stay." And he goes, "You don't know who we are." And then he stormed off all mad. And he went to the owner and offered the owner 3 times more money than what I was paying. But I wasn't paying anything, But the owner said, no, you deal with Carmelo, So years later, I actually found out that the Vice Squad had infiltrated the Radio Club, and they were going to shut it down anyway.
Whoa.
So the owner kind of set me up, but I didn't know none of that at the time, So then I was in the building, so the owner gave me the keys. Monday came around, I went in the building, and I'm standing there like thinking, man, how am I gonna get the kids in here? Because I had like $5 in my pocket. Well, how many flyers can I make for $5, So I hear a banging on the door, bang, bang, bang. And I open the door, and it's this guy says, I'm the location scout for Canon Films, and we're trying to make a movie here. Who has this building? So I showed him, the paperwork, and he goes, Mr. Alvarez, we're trying to make the movie Breaking, and we like your permission to film in here. So I said, okay, come on in, So they brought, here comes Ice-T and Boogaloo Shrimp and Shabadoo and all the dancers and all the actors, and then they brought the graffiti artists. So the graffiti artists, they painted Radio Club on the stage, Radio Club. And then here comes the Russian guy, and here comes the Russian guy, and he's all mad. I didn't give him permission to use my name. And then he went to the producer's office and he demanded money, So the producer called the RadioTron. It was we had a payphone in the lobby, and he called and he goes, let me talk to the graffiti artist, I said, hey, they want you on the phone. So he goes, sure. So he got on the phone, he goes, yeah. He hung up, he went back and he buffed out Club. He erased Club, and him and it was Craze and Graph One, and they were kind of, joking around, well, what do we call it? Like, how about Tron, like the game, like the movie Tron, They go, yeah, let's put Tron, RadioTron, and that's how RadioTron, the name, was born.
Wow.
It was Craze and Graph One, and so then they finished filming, and they're gonna paint everything out. They brought buckets of gray paint, and I stopped them. I go, no, leave it, because at first it was all dark, and now it's all colorful. So then, so they left the paint there. They left the graffiti, and then I heard another knock on the door, and it's a little kid, and he goes, hey, mister, can we break in there? And I go, yeah, sure. And he goes, hey, the man said we could break in there. And there was all kind of kids, because they went when they were filming. They were outside. They were on the outside watching the filming, and now they're on the inside. And I let them dance in there.
Wow.
You know?
I bet you they love that.
They loved it. They loved it. They were like, wow, because they felt like they were in a film.
Yeah.
They felt like, see, like in hip hop, everybody uses a street name, like an alter ego, you know. So when they went in there, they became that character. I mean, I would see the switch, you know, and I would even let them sign in as that, you know. Yeah. As long as I had permission from their parents with their real name, I let them use their tag name or their, you know, street name. So they were all characters in there, Mr. Animation and Gizmo and Jazzy D and you know, Prime and
these are pivotal people.
Little Caesar and Ozrock from the movie Body Rock, you know. So they would all come in there and be that character, just like the Treehouse. You could be whoever you imagined to be, and that's what they did. So I would allow it. I would nurture it. I would encourage it because I saw it as very healthy. You know, when I, like you said, you asked me about my dance background. When I was 15, I was running around downtown like stealing cars, to be honest with you, because I wanted to get it. I wanted to get in good with the gang, you know, and I wanted to be accepted. So, and I didn't want to get beat up. so I was doing that, and then my art teacher from Belmont High School told me, "Hey, go to Barnesdale Junior Art Center. They have an after-school program." So I went to Barnesdale, and I took like experimental theater and sculpture, animation, and I met this kid there named Chester Whitmore. And I don't know what he saw in me, but he invited me to join his tap troupe. And I thought, tap troupe, gang, and I chose tap, and it transformed my life. He invited me to go to Inner City Cultural Center, and he introduced me to Faye Nicholas from the Nicholas Brothers. And Faye Nicholas I didn't know that he was a giant. I mean, he was short like me, but in the cultural history of tap dance and Hollywood and film, he's a legend. He's a giant. You know, the Nicholas brothers. So he taught us the moves, and it's like I found my place in life. You know, because that community embraced me. Then I was in a play called Crenshaw Boulevard. I played a tap dancer with my cousin. We were the Martinez brothers, and it was beautiful. It was a great experience, you know. And my acting teacher was Rose Portillo. She was in the movie Zoot Suit.
Oh.
Yeah. And my other teacher was George C. Wolfe. He's a Broadway director, and now he's a film director. And he was my teacher. And my mentor was Bernard Jackson. He was the founder and director of Inner City Cultural Center. And he created that space after the Watts riots. So he saw the value in culture as a social movement. He connected the dots. And as I looked around my community, I didn't see that. I didn't see that we had cultural centers or museums or galleries or bookstores. So I was kind of, I felt kind of depressed, you know. That can be depressing, you know. Mm-hmm. So I found myself hanging off of a Hollywood freeway overpass. You know, I was like, God, what do you want me to do? You know, you give me gifts you give me this talent, but I can't eat from it. You know, what do you want me to do? And God put in my heart, use your gifts and your talents to save the youth. So right there, it hit me like my purpose in life is to use my talents to serve the youth. So I climbed out of the freeway overpass and I walked down to Salvation Army on Union and 11th Street. And I knocked on the door there. And I said, I'm here to work. And they said, wow, we don't have a job? And I go, well, I'll work even if you don't pay me. And they go, well, what can you do? I go, I can teach dance, I can teach theater, I can put on plays. And they go, wow, well, we're just getting ready to open a performing arts center. They built a new building with a stage. Wow. And I go, okay, well, let me work 1 week free. And if you like my work, hire me. So a week later, I'm performing arts supervisor for the Red Shield Youth Center. Yay. So I started putting together like plays, and my sister did makeup. My other sister taught folklorico. So I started doing that, and that's where I began. That's where I started. That was like, you know, one of the first spaces. Before it was a treehouse, you know. That was the original one. But I started seeing the value of that, because when you create a space, a creative space that nurtures the talent, the people will gravitate towards that, you know. So I saw the value in that, and then I decided to go to New York. You know, I took $100, a suitcase, and a one-way ticket, because they said, if you can make it there, you'll make it anywhere. So I only took a one-way ticket because I was gonna make it there no matter what, you know. So that's where I got a job as a manager of a coffee house showcase, you know. And that's where 3 years later I got the phone call to come to LA.
Wow. Speaking of this dancing that you're talking about and how it's been infused into your life, RadioTron was a breeding ground for b-boys. And in fact, that's where these b-boys came out and started doing that West Coast dance, popping and locking. What are some of those individuals that came out of RadioTron, or crews that came out of RadioTron?
The most famous breakdance crew to come out of RadioTron's Air Force crew.
Oh.
So at the same time, see, I opened RadioTron in '83, while the war in El Salvador was going on. They had a civil war, so kids were being recruited, like 12-year-old kids were being recruited to join the guerrillas or the army. So there was a young man named Caesar, and he's known as Little Caesar from Air Force crew. Well, when he was 12, his mother escaped from El Salvador, and they came to LA and they moved around MacArthur Park. So he found his way to RadioTron, and I remember seeing him like do a quarter of a head spin and then fall down, and do a half a head spin and then fall down, and do a whole head spin and then fall down, and then do another head spin, So he won the Guinness World Records of head spin.
Really?
Yeah, the guy,
Ooh.
he's phenomenal. He's phenomenal.
Oh my God.
So, and then there was Orco, another kid from Nicaragua. He was phenomenal as well, Orco. So it was like Orco, and then we had the first B-girl Yvonne. And she was great, so we had, then there was Mr. Animation from South Central, and he found his way there. I remember he came there, and he had like the do-rag, with the fedora. He didn't even have a shirt on. He had a big ghetto blaster. He had baggy pants, like what was it, MC Hammer pants,
Yeah.
And when he would walk down 7th Street, like all the ladies would get off the sidewalk and let him pass. But he was a gentle, kind, loving person, Rest in peace, Mr. Animation. I mean, he was phenomenal,
Yeah.
So, and then there was, in fact, Be Real.
Yes.
Be Real, when he was like 15, he went to RadioTron.
Oh, wow.
And he was a popper.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Be Real. And I think he said that the first time he got on the mic, it was at RadioTron.
Damn.
So we had Tony G was a DJ, and a kid named Antron, and Jazzy D. And one time we had a rap contest, and it was Darlene, MC Darlene, and Jazzy D, and we had Ice-T as the judge. So that's where Ice-T and Darlene met.
Oh.
Like, they met at RadioTron. Like, Ice-T came back just for that event,
Yeah.
and he met Darlene there, and then they got together, and the rest is history.
Yes.
They have Ice-T Jr.
Yeah. His daughter.
Yeah. And then now, well, that's from a different.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
but they were together for a while, so I mean, they met there.
Wow.
You
Man,
know?
your community center, but a hookup spot, huh?
Yeah.
I saw Mr. Animation in the Rhyme and Reason documentary.
Okay.
Right, he's in there,
Yeah.
and they're all popping. All these individuals that you named.
Yeah, we had a kid named Little Tough from the Dominoes. I mean, so many, Siberian Nights. I mean, just so many kids came there. They would come there every day to practice. It was open after school, so it went from an after hours to an after school. And then on weekends, we'd have the dances, and there was a kid. There were kids that would practice all week, and then the weekends they would do the show. So if they were regular members, they had a membership card.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Membership cards.
Yeah,
Cool.
but they had to do a show.
Oh.
They had to do a show in exchange, And I remember Will Dog. Do you know Will Dog?
Yeah.
Will Dog from
Osomali. Yeah.
So Will Dog went there. Cut Chemist went there,
Oh.
and even Micah 9.
Wow,
Micah 9 went
Project
there.
Mo.
Micah 9 went there, and Charlie Tuna.
Whoa, you were just a breeding ground for these.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know about breeding. I don't know about breeding. I don't know breeding.
Maybe a wrong choice of words, but man, you were
I think I saw it more
incubator.
I saw it more like a sanctuary, like a sanctuary. A sanctuary. You have the temple tactics, you know. So a temple is like a sanctuary, you know. It's a sacred space. It's a safe space. And I saw it more like a sanctuary because what was happening outside in the 80s and in MacArthur Park, it was gangs and crack and Uzis and AKs and crash and all that, you know, Batarang and all that was going on. So the kids needed a safe place where they could be who they imagined themselves being, and it was beautiful, you know, and it was 24/7 hip hop. That's the difference, you know. Like there's a lot of programs where they have once a week they let them rap, or once a week they get to break. This was 24/7 hip hop. And I let everybody paint inside the building, outside the building. I got a lot of criticism for that, you know. Because they would come, the neighbors would complain, like they would go, "Why do you let them write on the walls?" You know, and they go, "They're ruining the whole neighborhood." And then I would look down the street and all the buildings were dead. Oh, shit.
Same thing.
All the buildings were dead because on the way there, the kids were dead. I go, "Oh my God, it's spread, it's spread." You know, I go, "Oh shit." But you know, I would talk to them, but I mean, I wouldn't tell them don't be yourself, but I guess I saw that unless you offer the kids another alternative, like you can't just criticize them. Like now we have like you know how the graffiti tower.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the graffiti tower. So, I mean that building was abandoned because the councilman took a bribe from the Chinese developers. He took a bribe. So he's supposed to do 13 years in prison, but he keeps making excuses at his health, and so they keep delaying that. But the point is that there's all this corruption in City Hall. They've dogged out the kids. Because I created programs where the tagging crews would be responsible to restore a mural if it got tagged.
Oh, okay.
They would learn about the history of muralism and the Chicano murals, and they will learn about Siqueiros, the guy that painted the first spray mural in 1930s at Chenard Art School, which was across the street from RadioTron. Okay, that's history.
Wow.
That's history.
That is.
You know, really, I mean, Retna knows that history because he painted, we were doing a documentary and he was painting elementary school. And I went by there and he goes, "Hey, Carmelo." And he goes, I'm Retna. And I go, "You know where you're at, right?" And he goes, "Yep, RadioTron, Chenard." He knew.
Dang.
He knew.
Yeah.
He knew. He did his homework, you know. So anyway, now we're gonna get into kind of like what's happening now, because I think it all stems from how the city treats its youth, like the policies. So the Unified School District banned breakdancing in the 80s. The city banned hip hop and hard rock from any city building, and you can't get insurance for hip hop. And the Surgeon General of California declared breakdancing hazardous to your health. And the city council, they put a restriction on teen clubs. So basically they shut down all teen clubs. You don't have teen clubs in the city of LA.
And this is going on in the height of you having.
Yeah, but this is still now, you still don't have any teen clubs in the city of LA. And this was in the height of the RadioTron. So I think that's why the owners just decided to sell the property and ask him to give me the building. He goes, "Well, if you can move it." So he gave me the building. He sold the property. So that's when we marched to City Hall to ask the mayor and the city council to find us a space, and we'll move the building there, you know? And they never showed up. They turned their backs on the youth. So it was very, very tragic, but Canon Film, the producers, they did see the news, and then they came back to RadioTron and they wanted to film Breaking 2. So I go, well, if you use the kids, if you hire the kids. So they used some of the kids, and they used Mr. Animation, you know, with the mask. And they filmed Breaking 2. So when I went to go see the movie, I realized that they took our story, like the real story of RadioTron was that's the story of Breaking 2.
And for some people, as I was saying, hey, Carmelo's coming up here, and I'm gonna interview him, and the movie Breaking was filmed. Some people don't know what Breaking is. Tell them what that movie Breaking is and who was in it. I mean, we know Pop and Taco was in there, Shabba-Doo.
Well,
most people know Beat Street.
Yeah, I mean, Breaking 2. It was more popular at the time than Beat Street.
Yep.
Because it cost $2 million and it made like $40 million the first year, and it's still making money now.
Yo.
You know, so I mean, they could have bought the building. They could have donated $1 million. They could have bought the property, bought the building. They could have wrote it off on their taxes. Then it wouldn't have cost them nothing. It would have cost them nothing. But no, they decided that they want to make another movie and try to make more money. And Hollywood, they exploited. It was an exploit film. They exploited the culture, and the city turned their back. And still, the policies of the city, they're very anti-youth. You know, the criminalization of youth, because they pass more laws against graffiti. They don't even call it graffiti art. They refuse to use that. They call it vandalism. And then the crews, they put them into the gang category. So it's gangs/crews.
Right.
And so even today, I feel that they're very anti-youth, because, like, as we're celebrating the 50th and 51st anniversary of hip-hop, and breaking has gone to the Olympics in Paris, the LA Olympic Committee denied breaking. They excluded breaking for the Olympics, but they chose squash instead. They chose squash over breaking. So basically, squash, breaking. You know? I mean, who do you know that plays squash?
Yeah, right?
Who plays squash?
I don't know. I don't even know what a squash court looks like.
You know?
Yo, speaking of these elements and what you fostered at RadioTron, it was a place where b-boy, DJing, graffiti art could be practiced. But you allowed graffiti artists to go into your building and practice their art. Tell us about that policy that you had for artists to go in there.
Well, I dedicated a room because, you know, the artists, they need to be creating, you know, like, there's only so much space, you know. So I gave them a room upstairs where it was called the tag room, where they can tag any wall. I mean, they could tag wall to wall, chairs, tables, ceiling, walls, but no tagging in my office, you know. And they respected that. They respected it, you know. And no crossing out, and no gang graffiti, because there were actually members of like different gangs in one crew. Like K2S had members from 3 different gangs in the crew. So it was a neutral space. Again, a sanctuary, because to get away from gang banging, you know, and they would go in there. I would have reams of paper, because I would get paper donated, like recycled paper from the businesses on Wilshire Boulevard, the offices. They would give me recycled paper, and H.G. Daniels would give me markers, you know, sample markers.
Wow.
So the kids would go in there. There would be reams of paper that they could, you know, practice the writing. Incredible, like they had the space, and I nurtured them that they could, you know, be as creative. They would do like Wild Style. It was K2S, STN, MAK. I mean, those were the main crews, but many others would come there and learn from each other. All colors, black, white, yellow, white. Like, it didn't matter. It didn't matter your color, it didn't matter your ethnicity, it didn't matter your economic status. You were welcome there to make art.
Well, that's dope.
Yeah.
That's dope. RadioTron was a family affair for you. You had your mother, and I think at the time was your girlfriend, or perhaps your wife would be your wife later. What sort of role did they play at RadioTron?
Well, they were very important role because they were like the administration. My wife, she worked in the administration. She helped me keep all the files in order, make sure that all the kids had their parental permission and their release forms, you know, to go there. I actually met my wife when I had the office. I was looking out the window one day and I saw a beautiful Latina get off of the bus and then walk across the street, and then I lost sight of her. And about 10 minutes later, somebody's knocking on my door, and I answer the door, and it's like, it's her. Beautiful woman, you know? And she says, an agency sent me to work here. So my partner had applied for JTPA, you know, and she was sent there from an agency. So I definitely hired her. It was like love at first sight.
Wow.
And
Nice.
and I had my first child with her. I say he was born at RadioTron, but he was born in the hospital, but he was made at RadioTron.
Yeah, conceived.
Yeah. And the kids loved him. You know, he learned how to spin on his ass before he even learned how to walk.
Whoa.
Yeah, because he would see the breakers, you know, and he would spin on his butt, you know, and all the kids took care of him. They loved him. And then I had 2 other kids from her. And I would say that my kids, how could I say this? They sacrificed me because I had to give time and dedication to the spaces and the kids, and my kids would suffer for that because a lot of times, you know, I had to pay the rent, and I didn't have for both, so I had to make a decision. You know what? So I saw that as a greater good, but they did suffer. You know. One time, I had another center. I got a grant to work with the MS gang. And I got the MS into soccer, and I got him into doing murals, and I got him into doing a play. I got him into all these things, you know. And when they went out to play soccer against other teams, sometimes the people would know that they would find out that these kids are coming from inner city, you know, Salvadorian kids. And this lady was taking pictures, like she kept taking pictures of the Salvadorian kids. And one of them said, "You want to take a picture? Take a picture of this." You know? So I said, oh no. I said, oh my God. So, and they were winning. So they got kicked out of the league.
Damn.
But I couldn't tell them. So what I did was I took my kids' Christmas money, like $500 that I was saving up for Christmas, and I went and I bought the Salvadorian kids trophies, and then I had an awards banquet. I spent on an awards banquet, and they had the trophies, like the first place trophies, and they were like holding on to them, like it was so important for them, like they had never been recognized, and they wouldn't let it go. They were just guarding the trophies, you know. But then after I go, oh shit, how am I gonna, you know, take care of my kids now? But ironically, that Christmas, my kids got more presents than ever. You know, Santa came through, you know, like my kids got so many presents from my family, from her family. But then my kids say, yeah, but it wasn't from you, Dad. So, you know, so that's like, if you're a youth advocate, and you're poor, and you're gonna run into those struggles. I'm sure you're a father, right?
Yeah, I'm a father.
So, and you do a lot of volunteer work or get paid very low, and you're gonna be faced with those challenges. So, I just hope my kids forgive me for all that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they look back at it and go like, wow, our dad created something, and our kids are young and they don't see it right away, but when they get older, they tend to go like, wow, that man created something. I guarantee you they're going to look at that. You yourself, obviously a giving man. You created RadioTron. You had your hand in the Peace and Justice Center. You had your hand in Espacio Tijuana Youth Center, and also Lunar Soul Cafe. What is it that pushes you to create these spaces for people to see hip hop in its true original form and even practice it?
I think it goes back to the roots, to my roots, because all the way from creating that tree house to creating to hanging off the freeway, to asking, what is my purpose? What is my purpose in life? So when you find your purpose and you align it with your gifts, that is the key that opens the door to possibilities. So align your purpose and with your gifts. That's the key that opens the door of possibilities.
Wow, man, full of knowledge. This next question is sort of like a pondering question, because and you're actually kind of answering it for me. You most likely created one of the earliest hip hop community centers, perhaps in the West Coast, Midwest, and East Coast. Now that hip hop is 51 years old, do you see yourself as being a part of hip hop history or a part of that West Coast hip hop history by creating such a place as RadioTron?
Well, I see myself as continuing, because there's a saying in Hollywood, you're only as good as your last movie. So RadioTron is the past. So I'm focused on the future now. I've always been forward thinking. Like you said, I opened the Peace and Justice Center. That's where Osomali actually formed out of there. Black Eyed Peas used to go there and work out, and a lot of bands, was it Quinto Sol and Machete and the Chicano Squad.
Highland Park, were you talking about?
No,
Peace and Justice.
that's Peace and Justice Center.
Well, where was it at though?
It was on. It was across the street from Prince's nightclub. On.
We were just talking about. That's why I asked.
Yeah.
We were having a conversation in the car.
On Baudry and 4th. It's where the LA film studios are now. Mm-hmm. So, and then Luna Sol. I remember we had a gig with Jurassic 5, Talented People, and I heard that Manu Chao went there, Yeah, because he wasn't there to perform. He just went there as an audience.
Wow.
But I was busy running around. But I heard he showed up there.
Wow.
Yeah, and there was and just creating spaces. Like in Tijuana, I converted a narco tunnel house into an art center.
What?
Yeah.
Dang.
It's called Casa de Túnel Art Center, and you could Google it, Casa de Túnel Art Center, and you'll see it right there. It's still there.
And what sort of work did you do there? I saw there was pictures that you B-boys came out of there.
Well, not that one. So since I got some funding for that to open that center, but I renovated it, and they didn't want the kids scuffling the floor, so I took my earnings and I opened Espacio Tijuana strictly for hip hop, because you see, I believe that you have to have a space that's dedicated to hip hop, because when you try to put in hip hop into another space, sometimes it conflicts, So they have their programs and they want to fit into hip hop needs its own space because somebody said that it's a lifestyle, it's a culture, you know, and I believe that it needs its own space and it doesn't take much. Like there's a RadioTron in Argentina. It's been around for about 5 years. They called me, they asked me permission to use the name RadioTron, just like they gave me permission to use the name RadioTron. Because did I tell you the story of
when they?
No, but then I called I called it Youth Break Center.
Okay.
And the kids didn't want that. They wanted RadioTron. So I wrote the Canon Films and I said, can you give me permission to use RadioTron? Because the kids want to call it RadioTron, you know? So they wrote me back and said, we give you permission to use the name RadioTron for the benefit of community kids, of community youth. So that's the policy that I practice.
Oh, okay.
Like, I'll give you permission to use RadioTron, and thank you for asking out of respect and courtesy. And yes, as long as you serve community youth and send me pictures. Yeah, so we're friends, you know? And it's very basic. 4 walls with graffiti, art, a floor, a roof, electricity, put the DJs, and it's on. It's on.
Yeah.
I mean, they teach each other. I mean, you don't have to hire specialized teachers. No, they teach each other. And I wanna go to El Salvador. I wanna open a RadioTron El Salvador, RadioTron Costa Rica, RadioTron Oaxaca, you know, and then go to Europe, you know, because there's people out in Europe that want to do a RadioTron UK, RadioTron France, you know.
So you have 2 actually. I mean, one out in
Well,
Argentina.
there was one in Argentina, and there was one in Portugal.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You just spreading that word.
Yeah.
And not only that, you obviously got some people's attention.
So I'd rather focus on creating than to relive, you know? That's okay. There's value in preserving the history. There's value, like there's the Hip-Hop Museum, you know, the Hip-Hop Museum in New York, you know? And it's great to record history and preserve history. And you have to know history to understand the present. But I'm more about the future. You know, I want to build for the future, not the past, because it already happened. But I value it.
Yeah.
So don't get me wrong, I'm not against that.
Very much so.
But that's not my personality. My personality is more on the future.
Yeah.
The present, really the present, because what they're doing with the kids, they're dogging them out. And the city doesn't have good youth policy. So I'm advocating for the youth in the present. That's why I have a petition on change.org, LA Breaking 28. So if you want to have breaking back in the Olympics, sign the petition. So I'm promoting that. But if they don't, we're gonna have a hip hop Olympics anyway.
Let's talk about that. You know, we were, again, on outside, out in the green room, we were just talking about all these things, and we got on the conversation about the Olympics. About a month and a half ago, the Olympic Committee showed the world breaking. What is your point of view, your thoughts about breaking being induced into the Olympics?
I mean, it went to Paris because the breaking community in Paris is very active. So that was great that they had it in Paris, but I felt like the Australian woman, I felt that she took the spotlight away from the B-girls and the B-boys and the true breaking culture. She just stole the spotlight.
Right.
So I think we shouldn't give her attention. Yeah, we shouldn't give her attention. And then the Olympics, obviously they're very corrupt because how did she even get in, you know? And why are they being neglected here in LA? Because the bottom line is it's all about money and sponsors and like all the media sponsors and all the money, like I guess squash is gonna bring more money than breaking. But who cares about squash, you know?
Again, I don't even know.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yes.
So, I mean, I think the Olympics has lost sight of why they were formed. Because back with the original Olympics, they didn't have media. They didn't have sponsors, you know?
Right.
So it was really to bring the world together and show the best of civilization, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's deteriorated. Now it's all about money and sponsors and this. So, I mean, I think, like again, knowing the past, we should strive to not lose the essence of things that we create, like culture, the best of a people, that which you want to pass on to your children and your children's children, the refinement of the intellectual mind. That's culture. And we've lost that. We've devolved into the worst, the worst of society.
Yep.
The worst, with the P. Diddy scandal and all that. That's not hip hop. That's not hip hop. It started, and then it went the wrong way. Mm-hmm. So we gotta do a correction and bring it back. And there's people that have been true to it, like Freestyle Fellowship, you know, and other rappers and other groups, you know. They've been true to it, but they don't get the big bucks. But you know what? In a way, I mean, we all have to make a decent living. You know, we all have to eat, right? But all this Lambos and bling bling and girls, I mean, is that hip hop?
No.
I think having the twerkers took away from the breakers.
Yep.
Because they used to have breakers before. And all the bling bling took away from the graffiti art, because hip hop to me is the finest of graffiti art, the finest of breakdancing, the finest of DJing, and the finest of rapping. That's hip hop to me.
Right.
You know, it's hip to be aware, and hop movement, conscious movement. Hip hop, conscious movement.
Well said. One more question and we're going to be out of here. But before we go, can you tell individuals again where they can go to find that petition so that individuals can be on the same road as you and trying to get this breaking in the Olympics?
Yeah, it's change.org, LA Breaking 28, and or they can go to my Instagram is RadioTron.LA.
Cool. I'll put that up whenever we get down to this nice edit and
everything. Okay, yeah.
Last question. I ask this to everyone that comes through Temple Tactics. Carmelo, what does hip hop mean to you?
Well, what it means to me personally is it's a culture that was created by youth who were in need, and now it's evolved, and it's something that needs to be preserved, and the true essence of it needs to be saved. The true essence of hip hop. You know, I heard kids saying, one teaches another, you know? That's one of the true essence of hip hop, you know, one teaches another. And to teach each other and to grow together. Like, if you're a graffiti writer, use a mask. If you're a breakdancer, warm up.
Okay.
And if you're a rapper, uplift the community. You could talk about you could talk about all the gangs and all the shootings, and that's real. But what's the redeeming value? What can you say that will uplift people from that reality? Because that's why when hip hop started, that's what it was about. When it started in the Bronx looked like a war zone. Like, it was like devastated, like Gaza, you know. And there's kids that are breaking in Gaza right now. It's breaking camp. That's the crew, breaking camp, you know. And for a moment they they forget about that. They forget about the war for a moment, you know? So if you're living in poverty, even if you're rich, like the rich kids, they're not all happy, believe me. They're not all happy. So whatever it is, whatever race you are, whatever color, whatever, you know, socioeconomic group that you belong to, I mean, you could use hip hop to forget your troubles, and you'll feel better after you do it.
I like that. Very, very easily said, right? Yo, Carmelo, it was awesome hearing you talk about what you've done for West Coast hip hop, as well as the youth of today and from the past. Man, is there anything else that you would like to say to our Temple Tactic viewers before we head out? You got the last word.
I just want to thank all the youth out there, and encourage them to keep creating, to, you know, don't be afraid to use your imagination, and keep building, because you are the future. You are the light and the hope of the world. It's on you, and I'm sorry that we've turned over this world that's a mess to you, but I have faith and I really believe that you're gonna make it better.
Carmelo Alvarez, RadioTron, Peace and Justice Center, Luna Sol Cafe, community activist, dancer, historian. Yo, you've just watched Temple Tactics, episode 13 with Carmelo Alvarez of RadioTron. Enjoy this history. Thank you for tuning in. Temple Tactics.